Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of The Moon Maid, The Three Keys from American Mythology. So this is part of the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe, and Edgar Rice Burroughs is the creator of Tarzan and John Carter of Mars, and American Mythology does comics of some of his lesser known works like Moon Maid. And so this is the brand new Moon Maid. This is the first appearance of this new Moon Maid, and her name is Loina. And as you can see in the corner here, this brand new logo declares that this is canon in the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. This is something that counts with the novels being put out by Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. And that's really cool. This is a brand new logo I've never seen before. I wonder where it was at previously, because they put out another series called Carson of Venus, Eye of Amtor, that also counted. But it's nice that it's here now, and it looks cool. It fits rather well in this cover, doesn't cover up too much, doesn't detract from anything. And it'll be interesting going forward to see, what else this is going to be on. Am I going to see it on DJ Thorez comics? Am I going to see it on the other American Mythology comics? It'll be interesting. So let's talk about this gorgeous cover. Now, this scene does not appear in the book, but I think I'm okay with that, because I understand that this is kind of an iconic image of this character that basically is kind of telling you who this character is, just like the original Moon Maid #1, did the same thing with Princess Naila. I could look at that cover and I could, know who that character was. Same thing here, and I think it does it really well. This is every bit as iconic as the original cover. And it's just gorgeous. It's well rendered. It's dynamic. This really sells the book. I mean, if this makes it onto a comic book shelf, this is going to sell. Unfortunately, a lot of comic book shops don't order these and put them on the shelf, and that's a tragedy. But this is an absolutely gorgeous cover, and certainly glad to own it. And so this first issue, once again, smartly begins with an explanation about where this takes place. This is a world named Vanos, which is inside of the moon, and it's good to have that prologue, because the characters themselves don't know they're inside of the moon. All they know is that they're in a world called Vanos, so it's nice to have this explanation telling the reader where they're at, what's going on, and it also recaps some of the events of the novels, which I've been reading the strips, adapting that on EdgarRiceBurroughs.com, which is quite good. If you haven't subscribed to that service, the comics they have online are really, really good. I'll touch on that at the end. And there's some really neat throwaway references to other Burroughs comics and books about how the story is being told. They say that Victory Harbin, who is a new character that's going to get a novel pretty soon, is telling the story to the lead character in Monster Men, which is really cool. And he is, telling us this story that Victory Harbin relayed to him via the Gridley Wave. And that is so Burroughs. He did that all the time in his novels, and that it's just that little attention to detail, that love for the source material just really always comes through in these comics, and it's just neat. And let's talk about this interior artwork. This is by Mariana Puglia. I hope I'm saying your name right. I could not find anything about this artist. I don't know if they've ever done a comic book before, but this is really wonderful. The storytelling's great, the rendering's great, and one thing I have kind of neglected to mention in some of my recent reviews, the coloring on these comics has gotten so much better. This is just gorgeous. All the colors are right, and these are not easy comics to color, because Burroughs does all these crazy colors with the plants and the grass, and these purple characters, and in previous comics, it's like, well, the colors could have been better, or, this guy's too purple or whatever. It's just all this stuff just works together. This is just firing on all cylinders. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous comic book, and worth buying just for the cover and the art. And the story is an absolute joy. You've got the danger around every corner that you would get in a normal well done Burroughs comic, but with this new character who's mysterious. She's badass, she's compassionate, she is a survivor, she has a lot of grit, and just is really cool. I like her, even though I don't know a lot about her yet. But the point of the miniseries seems to be that, you know, you're going to find out who she is as it goes along. She reminds me a lot of Sita the Savage, the character that Mike Wolfer created for the Land That Time Forgot comics. That she's, you know, she's lost her people and she's out there surviving on her own, and she's a badass. So she's like Sita of the Moon or something. But I really did get down with Loina, and I'm really looking forward to, you know, seeing the rest of her adventure here. So overall, I really recommend this comic. It is a joy cover to cover. Good cover, great art, great story, and I'm just really intrigued to see where we take this new character. And I keep saying this in my reviews, but it's just really amazing how these Edgar Rice Burroughs comics from American mythology have grown over time. When you compare the artwork from that first issue that they put out of Land of Time Forgot, compare that to the Moon Maid stuff they put out a couple years ago. Compare that to now with the new Moon Maid and the comics they're putting out now. Monster Men knocked it out of the ballpark. The two Land That Time Forgot miniseries is going on right now are great. It's like watching your child grow up and mature in a very good way. So I'm really glad that these comic books are coming together and the creative teams are gelling and they're working. And so with all that being said, they finally revealed what that new in-canon series that they're going to come out with is. And when I saw it, I felt really stupid because that was there in that teaser the entire time, and I just totally missed it. So what it is Beyond the Farthest Star. And this is an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel that is set in a solar system where it has 10 planets and they're all in the same orbit, and they're so close together that they share the same atmosphere, and you can actually fly from planet to planet in a plane. And so that sounds really interesting. I am not familiar with this. I guess that's why when they did the teaser, basically the teaser was this ad but without the name on it. So you know, they dropped a hint with beyond, you know, with using the word beyond, but also this cryptic image this entire time was the sun and the 10 planets, which is super clever. My compliments to whoever did this. This is a super clever teaser that they did, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this property, because the rest of the stuff has been really good from them so far. And one thing I would like to address is that this has been marketed as a new Moon Maid for a new generation, which is kind of interesting considering this first issue that is the first time that Nahila has ever been in a comic that I know of, was published in 2018. So why did we need a new Moon Maid? And I don't have a definitive answer. I haven't been able to find like an article on it or anything, but I can tell you my opinion. So Nyla is written as she would be in the novel. She's written as a Burroughs heroine, which means that she's a normal person, and when she gets into trouble, she has to use her wits. She's a princess. She wanders outside the castle, gets in some trouble, and she has to use her own wits and her own devices, just like any of us would be in that situation. And so while that was a really interesting miniseries that I highly recommend picking up, there's only like 4 issues of Moon Maid published before now, so it's really easy to just collect that story. it would get kind of old if it was just a series of miniseries about a princess who just keeps wandering outside of her palace and getting kidnapped or getting chased by a monster or something. That is fun the first few times you do it, but it would get a little bit redundant. And so let me use the example of the Dynamite comics with Warlord of Mars. So in the Warlord of Mars series, Dejah Thoris was written as Burroughs wrote her, as just a normal person who didn't have any particular special skills or powers to get out of the trouble that she got into. However, when they came up with Warlord of Mars Dejah Thoris, which is set in her past, suddenly she is one of the greatest warriors on the entire planet. She's an expert swordswoman and all this stuff. She is an action hero just kicking unbelievable amounts of ass. The problem here is that it's almost impossible for this character to be the same one as this one. In my head, I actually consider these to be two different continuities or two different versions of the character. There's just no way this Dejah Thoris is the same thing as this Dejah Thoris. And so what American Mythology did when they wanted an action hero, they didn't just try to cram that into a character that it wouldn't have made any sense with. You know, Naila all of a sudden is the greatest warrior in Vanas, you know, or something. They just created a new character that it would make sense with. And I think that is very, very smart. And I really like that. And I kind of wish Dynamite had done that. But because there are actually other characters they could have used from the Mars novels that would have made more sense if they wanted a female warrior. But, you know, whatever. But I think, you know, that is at least partly why we're getting a new Moon Maid, and I think it works. And it's not a replacement for the old novels. It's not a replacement for Naila, but it is a new character and a new story to expand the mythology, and I think that's wonderful. And speaking of the classic novels, I finally did subscribe to the online comic strips from EdgarRiceBurroughs.com, and they are amazing. So any series that American Mythology is putting out on Edgar Rice Burroughs, you can get the backstory with the adaptation of the novel from EdgarRiceBurroughs.com comic strips, and they are wonderful. Same thing goes for Tarzan, same thing goes for John Carter, and there's also tons and tons of other Burroughs properties, probably a lot you've never heard of, unless you're just like a real aficionado on stuff like that. But it's a really amazing amount of stuff. It will be the best $22 you spend for a year's worth of something ever. It does not replace, you know, any comics that are being put out, because, you know, the comics from Dynamite and American Mythology are putting out new stories and keeping it alive in comic book format, but it is a great, great supplement. And one last bit of housekeeping. I know you're probably expecting reviews of the To Land That Time Forgot miniseries, but those next issues seem to have been delayed. I'm expecting Zorro in the Land That Time Forgot to come out very soon, because it's already on American Mythology's website. You could actually go and buy it right now, but I haven't seen it solicited to actually ship in a comic shop yet. So I expect that within the next few weeks. Whenever it does ship, and I get it, I will certainly give you a review of Zorro in the Land That Time Forgot. Boss Fight Studios put their Zorro figure back up, and I already got it, and I already got my Jurassic Park dinosaurs, so you know the display I'm going to put up. I'll be doing a review of the Zorro figure. I'm looking forward to opening it. I mean, gosh, the packaging alone looks gorgeous. I don't know if you, it depends on how big a screen you're looking at me at, but it is really gorgeous. So looking forward to doing that review, and looking forward to doing more comic reviews. So like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.